Good to hear from the Senator about this and other matters. Senator Hagerty, good afternoon. Happy Friday to you. Hope you're well, sir.
Same to you, Matt. It's always great to be on with you. It's good to be back home as well.
Well, an absolute pleasure to have you. Glad you're back in the great state of Tennessee. It's always good to have you in our state. I mean, obviously, I think you'd rather be many different places than Washington, D.C., but Tennessee's probably as high as you can get on that list.
That's true. I'm over in Knoxville today, and it's it's great to be any place in Tennessee versus up there in Washington.
Well, and you were recently with a number of individuals, Tennessee sheriffs and mayors, I believe, along with district attorneys and law enforcement authorities. You took a trip down to the Del Rio sector of the state of Texas, Eagle Pass specifically. Talk to me about the opportunity and why you felt it's so important to get down there and see some things with your own eyeballs.
Well, man, I've been watching this evolve over the years. I've been to see our border in California and Arizona, in Texas before. I thought it was important to take. Now, this is not the first time. This is the second time I've taken a group of sheriffs and mayors and district attorneys down to the border because they're feeling in Tennessee the repercussions of what's happening down there. And I thought it would be very helpful to take them with me so they could see firsthand what's occurring at our southern border, and so they can help tie all of this together for me. I'm trying to make sure I'm the most informed I can possibly be about how it's impacting us right here in Tennessee. And they are seeing the results of this, whether it be through drug overdoses, through gang activity. I hate to talk about the details of it, but the human trafficking it's just unbelievably horrendous that's going on. This is happening right here in our home state of Tennessee. If you look at the drug overdoses that are taking place, the data I got from TBI earlier this week, this is 2021 data, and it's been on the rise. At that point, we were looking at 86 overdoses per day in Tennessee, 11 deaths per day in Tennessee as of 2021. I got to believe that those numbers are much higher now. It's just shocking that we're tolerating this sort of carnage here in our home country. And to think about what we saw at the border, I think this was by far worse than when I took a group down there about 2 years ago. It's just completely out of control, except in one section. And that's where you mentioned Eagle Pass and the Del Rio sector. There's one section there called Shelby Park that, Matt, I think most of us have seen on TV. It's the embarrassing drone shots that Fox News was showing under that bridge, if you recall, where there are thousands of migrants under there.
I do.
That is Shelby Park. That's Shelby Park. That's where I was. And Governor Greg Abbott has basically taken control back from the federal government of that zone. Might be only 15 acres, but he's taking control back, and they are enforcing the law there with Texas National Guard. So if somebody who doesn't belong in this country steps foot in that park, they are arrested for trespassing. And guess what's happened, Matt? It's brought illegal crossings there down to almost zero as a result. You enforce the law, it stops this. But the problem is it's like squeezing a balloon, if you can imagine that. So you stop it there at Shelby Park in the Del Rio sector, it just pushes it to other areas. They've completely lost control of Arizona and California, as I understand it now. And what they're doing is just shifting the problem. So Tennessee is sending down a group of National Guard this weekend. They're going to take another section of the Del Rio region. We're going to keep seeing more and more governors sending National Guard down, demonstrating to this White House that if you enforce the law, you can stop this. But again, it doesn't fix the problem until we secure the entirety of the border. So we've got to get on that. I'll tell you one other thing that really struck me this time, and if you think about it, and I'm sure you have, it's deeply, deeply concerning. We hear the term gotaways. And can I just distinguish that for our listeners, what a gotaway is?
Yeah, of course.
Asylum seeker.
Of course.
The majority of people that are showing up, and again, they're all coming courtesy of the cartels. We have completely ceded control of our southern border to criminal organizations that operate in the northern part of Mexico. These cartels work hand in hand with the Chinese Communist Party there, moving fentanyl, and they're moving the human traffic into the country, and crime is just unbelievable. But these cartels are sending people across. For the most part, they're claiming asylum. And what does asylum get you? Well, you answer 3 simple questions that you've memorized the answers to by the cartels. You get a white glove treatment then once you come in. You get checked off. You're given a court date of 2032. And you get a cell phone. You get fresh clothing if you need it. You get some cash. And they put you on a plane and send you to wherever you tell them you'd like to go, a one-way ticket. to the interior of America. That's the white glove treatment. All you have to do is claim asylum. But what we hear is these are what they call known gotaways. These are people that they've seen on camera, but they've not been able to capture them. 1.7 million of them. You think about the ones that the cartels have outsmarted the cameras and have gotten across. That number is not 1.7 is a minimum number. It could be double that. It could be triple that. We could be talking 5 million people here that are here not claiming asylum. They're here for a different reason. And what brought it so vividly home to me was we visited with a rancher that owns, he's a fifth generation rancher on this property. It's been in his family for over a century. Cattle farmer down there. He's got a section of property, 1,500 acres. It's a large section between the Rio Grande River where they cross and the rail line that they use. It's Union Pacific rail line that they use to jump on that illegally, hide on the train, and ride that into the interior of the country. We went to see his farm, went to see his ranch. We say farm here in Tennessee. Went to his ranch. They keep cutting his fence. He said, I had to get out of the cattle business. I can't keep, they cut it every night. They're cutting my fence to break into the country, come across my property to get to that train line. And he told me what's happened to his family. Not only have they taken his livelihood, he can't raise cattle there anymore. He said his wife woke him not too long ago, woke him up. She said she heard something in the kitchen. He walked out there and he said there were 20 adult males, military age, in his kitchen, eating out of his refrigerator, drinking out of his refrigerator.
Holy moly.
He had a pistol. Can you believe that, Matt? He had a pistol. He said, I cocked it. I told him to get out. They said, get us more beer. That was their response to him.
Holy moly.
Finally, they walked out. He thought about following them out to the barn, but then he realized he's only got 6 shells.
Right.
He called for help, and he essentially got word, you're on your own. He told me that he's been advised. He's got an 18-year-old and a 10 or 12-year-old. He said that they've been told to let those 2 children, not to let those 2 children on the property unless they're armed or with somebody who is. That's his own property. This is in America that this is happening to us. He told me that he found 15 Syrians on his property last month. What are they doing there? They didn't claim asylum. They didn't go through the...
Wait. Did you say, excuse me for interrupting, Senator, Syrians?
Syrians, people from the nation Syria.
What are they doing there?
He doesn't know. Neither do you or I know. But it doesn't sound like they're there for asylum purposes.
Nope.
I doubt they're there for any sort of purpose that we would feel comfortable about. 15 Syrians on his property. He told me he had found 2 people zip-tied with their hands behind their back and bullets in their head on his property. This is obviously a cartel deal gone wrong. He called every authority he could. Finally, somebody came out. He said Fox News even came out and filmed it, but the same day they were 2 people that entered illegally in a train car and died of dehydration. They covered the dehydration and talked about the humanitarian part there. Didn't cover the crime at all. And if you think about what is happening, he told me this. He said, it was about dusk. We're on the property, and we're the group of us there. And he said, pretty soon you're going to start seeing blue lights blinking right over that hill. And sure enough, we see this blue light popping off. He said, that's a comfort station. I said, what is a comfort station? He said, these are your taxpayer dollars at work. He said, that comfort station has, and we went over to see it, that comfort station has a charger bar. So these guys can recharge their cell phones. It's got water, and he said sometimes food, sometimes not. There wasn't food there when we were there. But why do they need to recharge their cell phones? Because the cartels and the coyotes use pin drops on a GPS system to basically lay out the map for their illegal immigrants to invade our country. That's the path to get to that train. These people aren't coming through the ports of entry. These people aren't coming through claiming asylum. These people are here for a different reason.
Well, that's right. And we've heard the stories, and I'm certain that you have too, Senator, of the different price points for these coyotes to get people from point A to point B, and the price changes depending on whether you want to go to a point of entry and have yourself turned over to Border Patrol, or if you want to avoid Border Patrol. And the price point is more if you want to avoid Border Patrol, because the suggestion is that you're coming into the country to engage in illegal activity, human trafficking, drug trafficking, and the like, the type of which you've just described. I think it begs the question, what can we do about it in the short term versus the long term? I think we all know the answer in the long term. We've got to vote in November. We've got to get Republicans back in control of the United States Congress, the Senate, and the House of Representatives. And obviously, we need to get Donald Trump back into the White House. But in the short term, is there anything we can do? I know you guys have SB 2 in front of you in the Senate that Chuck Schumer refuses to bring up for debate, refuses to allow folks like you to vote on. This is good legislation, is it not?
Absolutely it is. Absolutely it is. And, you know, I get a lot of pushback on this so-called border security bill. It's just like the Inflation Reduction Act. Just because you call it a border security bill doesn't mean it secures the border. And this one absolutely would not. You could ask James Lankford, who negotiated it. It needed to be worked through, amended, and fixed on the floor, and we never got the chance to do that. For example, Matt, I wanted to put in place a simple piece of legislation that would get at, I hate to use the term that is used by this White House and Vice President Harris, get at the root cause. You've got to ask yourself, what's the incentive here? Why do they keep allowing this carnage to occur to our nation? Why would the White House and the Democrats possibly do this? I can tell you it's about power. And most Americans don't realize that illegal immigrants are counted, just like citizens, for purposes of allocating congressional districts and electoral votes in America. So if you're a state that has a high number of illegal immigrants, you're going to get disproportionately more representation in Congress and more electoral votes. My legislation is quite simple. It requires that only citizens be counted for the purpose of allocating congressional districts and electoral votes. The Democrats will not let that come to the floor, would not let me amend the bill to fix that. So you ask yourself, what's the incentive? That should tell you a lot right there. They're letting this happen. It's carnage. But this is happening because of the desire to gain power.
Well, and so we seem to, I mean, the Democrats like to conflate border security and immigration policy. They do so for the purpose of pretending that they want to do something about border security, and they don't. They may or may not want to actually do something about immigration policy, but they certainly want to do anything about border security. And so they try to confuse, I think, the American public by conflating the two issues. I want to ask you this specifically, Senator, before we run out of time. On the issue of asylum, why are we not invested in suspending for a period of time all claims of asylum in the United States of America? Would that not give us the ability to completely shut down the southern border? I don't know where an act of asylum has some, I mean, because you say asylum and somehow so many people treat that as sacrosanct. Like, oh, well, they said asylum, we've got to let them in. No, well, no, actually we don't. And now there are so many people that are abusing those claims, and we have to figure out how to better shore up our laws so as to protect those who have legitimate claims of asylum, because we're a humanitarian people and we want to do that, but also to reject those who are abusing the system in the manner that we see that have brought forth 7.5 million people under the Biden administration illegally alone.
Yeah, it's so sad for those people who are trying to go through the system illegally too, Matt. It's just to the same point. They're not processing people in the legal immigration line because they're overwhelmed dealing with these folks claiming asylum and coming here illegally. I think you suggest something that would be an immediate fix if Joe Biden wanted to fix it. It's interesting. We're hearing reports now that Joe Biden's considering actually using executive orders to try to come back and mend this. He's getting a lot of back pressure from his party, but he's had the ability to do this from day one. If you think about it, he was delivered the most secure border that we have seen in our lifetimes. Donald Trump fixed this with the Remain in Mexico policies, the migrant protection protocols, ending catch and release, building a wall. He was almost through that. Joe Biden came in and undid all of that and precipitated this crisis. He could stop it tomorrow if he would only step up and address it. But they want to actually wave their hands and act like they're doing something or try to blame Republicans. You remember in 2021, Mayorkas and Biden, there's no problem. The border is secure. 2022, the border is secure, no crisis. 23, we've got no crisis. The border is secure. Suddenly, 2024, he's facing an election. There's a crisis, and it's the Republicans' fault because they haven't been able to fix it.
We're right. Yeah, we went from no crisis at all. Well, I mean, you go back a little bit further, and Donald Trump is some sort of evil character because he has the suggestion that American sovereignty depends on border security. And then you move forward, obviously, as you did, with no problem, no problem, no problem. And when the American people see through their lies, then we recognize, we've got to figure out a different lie to tell, and that lie is, it's the Republicans. The mean, evil Republicans aren't doing anything for us. When the American people see through that, suddenly, he has the ability to sign executive orders, which leaves us there, and I know you have to go, and we do too, but I'll ask you this question, Senator. does it all depend on what executive orders he's willing to engage in? I mean, I would applaud him finally seeing the light and reasserting some of the authority that Donald Trump asserted during his presidency. I would applaud that. But somehow I doubt that that's the type of activity that he's talking about from the executive branch.
I do too. I think they're going to do as much window dressing and as little action as possible. I was talking with President Trump about this just last night. He knows what tools he's used in the past. He'll be more efficient in deploying them, but he's got a very different scenario in front of him now. We've got, we've heard numbers like 9-10 million people that have come in here illegally the past 3 years. He believes the numbers are even higher because of those gotaways, so to speak, that you talked about, the high value clientele of the cartels that pay $30,000 to get into this country that we don't know about. But it's going to be extraordinarily difficult to deal with a situation, assuming he wins in November. He's going to have a big challenge on his hands, but I don't know anybody better situated to fix it than him.
Senator Bill Hagerty, thank you for your time. Thank you for everything you're doing for the state of Tennessee and beyond for the United States of America in your efforts in the United States Senate. I know it's an uphill battle right now. Hopefully, we'll give you some more colleagues that'll assist in that engagement. Until next time, take care and enjoy the state of Tennessee.